Hey guys, welcome back to the Alcohol-Free RV. Today we're going to talk about 5 things that we've learned about Wilmington, North Carolina. The first thing I want to talk about Wilmington is their parking situation. The parking is set up by a company called Flowbird, which is, as you can see on the screen here, used widely across the country. More and more tourist destinations are getting to mobile-based parking apps, and this is one of the options. Now, Flowbird is the one that you're going to want to use if you're in the Wilmington area, and basically how it works is you can either find a place to park and look for a local sign that says, hey, you're in zone 200, for example, and it will allow you to park and you'll do all the payment through your phone. Another alternative is if you zoom into an area, and let's say we want to go up here to the north end of Wrightsville Beach. I have no idea what zone that is. And it looks like there's street parking, which is this green pin, and then there's lot parking, which is the blue pin here. And so let's click on that blue pin. So this is at Wrightsville Beach Access 2. Gives you the pricing, gives you the hours that it's open. And this particular one, you can actually park either by the hour or by the day, which is super convenient. Now, if you're gonna be spending all day at the beach, you know, go ahead, spend that $25, but if you want to go at the individual hour level, feel free to do that as well. Now, there are a couple of locations here on Wrightsville Beach that are hourly only and up to 1 hour. So some of these more coveted spots here, I think, yes, these purple pins are setting, it is a 1 hour max. You can park for 1 hour anytime between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. You know, let's say you want to run down to the beach, you know, take a couple of pictures or whatever. If you happen to get into one of these spots, you're good to go, and then you can, you know, get back in your car and leave. Now, if you have the companion app, you can actually get a route to a particular location. I haven't installed that because we followed the process of finding a spot and then paying for that spot. It is really difficult to, especially in the afternoons, it's really difficult to get into a site that you choose ahead of time. Turn that off, zone code, there we go. So you can go into that zone code section, and as you can see, they're kind of all over the place, but we're in Wrightsville Beach. And so you can then just type in whatever zone code you're in. We used this a couple of times, and I remember that one of our zones was 200, so we could go ahead and confirm that. And then it will ask me, how long do you want to park? Just an hour, or I want all day, and it maxes out at $25.50. There is a 50-cent service fee, which is why this is saying $25.50. If you choose just an hour, it is $5.50. It's always a flat 50-cent fee at this time. The application will also give you a notification. If you are in the process of enjoying a dinner, it will notify you and say, hey, your time's about to run out. And I think at that point, you can re-up and add more time to your parking session. They also do have QR codes that you can scan on some of those parking signs. So if you don't want to type in, I'm in block 200, you know, you just go ahead and pull out your camera. It'll take that QR code and automatically get you set up in the app in the right zone. So item number 2, there is way more to do in Wilmington than just the beach. There's tons of good food. We ate at a handful of different restaurants while we were there and amended our in-house eating, so to speak, with food that we purchased from Bigger's Market. Bigger's Market is an open air market, and they have varying types of produce throughout the week. We were in Wilmington for 2 weeks, and we went to Bigger's twice. And there was a different selection each of those times, but they do have a seafood company that sells on site as well. So we were able to get our seafood and all of our produce, as well as a key lime pie at that market. We also found a ton of delicious restaurants. Definitely, I don't think you can go wrong. We didn't have a meal out at a restaurant that we would not love to enjoy again. So take a look, see what's up your alley. You know, there is something for everyone. There's Southern cooking, there's seafood, there's, you know, there's some barbecue places. And we focused on the seafood because we live in a landlocked state. So seafood for us, when we can get it that fresh, that's what we gravitate towards. The short story of that is, you know, go and try the food. There is a ton of great eats. And if you're in Ogden, check out the Casablanca coffee roasters. They are there on Route 17. They make a really awesome cup of coffee. I went every morning that we were there and got a pour over. They were absolutely delicious. They've got 4 good pour over varieties, so check them out if you get a chance. I also bought some beans from them so that I can have some when we get back home. The third thing that I'd like to talk about is the battleship North Carolina. I remember going to the battleship when I was a kid and loving every minute of it. The ship was, well, pretty old when I was a kid, and it's even older now, and they have taken really good care of making sure that this ship can stay open to the public to tour. It is a literal floating museum of World War II history. The memorial and museum and everything that's associated with the battleship has been open since like 1961. And they just finished a renovation of the hull that was starting to experience some rust and water intrusion into the ship. They just completed that this summer, and it is absolutely awesome that I got to share this experience with my son and my wife. Now, the ship is a North Carolina class ship and spent several years in active service before it was taken back into, I think it was Virginia, before it was finally set in place back in Wilmington off the Cape Fear River. Now, I'm gonna show a couple of clips here of just a few of the things that you can see inside this ship. I'm not gonna show everything because the tour is self-guided, but it can take several hours to get through everything that you can see on the ship. But you pretty much have access to everything from where they load the torpedoes, the engine rooms, staterooms, and all the offices and the war rooms as well. So it's a really cool experience to see what it was like to live on a ship in the middle of a war. Much of the tour is inside because you walk into the ship and you go down into the hull, and that's where like all the stuff is inside. There is some time that you have to be out on deck, and that's to get between those lower levels and up into the like command posts and all that stuff that's in the towers. Now, to be 100% honest, it is not going to be wheelchair accessible, and if you can't get up and down stairs real well, the staircases on this ship are more like ladders, so you should probably be aware of that. We were able to get all the way through into the bottom and the entire underbelly, the whole hull section, in about an hour and a half. We got there early, so there wasn't a whole lot of people on the ship with us, so that was kind of nice. We really got to take our time and look at every bit that we wanted. But it is really eye-opening to see the kind of conditions that these guys, and I'm pretty sure they were mostly guys in World War II, that these guys have experienced on these ships. I have no idea what this is like in comparison to today's warships, but it is an amazing piece of history, and I recommend checking it out if you're in Wilmington. Now, I'm gonna ball this last tip, 4 and 5. They're kind of two different things, but I wanted to talk about them together because they provide very different experiences. So the first one I'm going to talk about here is the new Hanover County Arboretum. Now, the Arboretum is a planned garden, and it has a bunch of different plants, flowers, trees, and etc., and a very well landscaped pond with massive koi in it. It's a beautiful experience, and it is a garden. It is one of these things that, you know, they've got some plants that you're not going to see just kind of out in the wild. They have been cultivated, and there were a ton of people working on the grounds while we were there. It is only a few dollars for admission into the Arboretum. I think it was maybe $5 a person. It was very, very inexpensive. And we spent maybe an hour walking through the garden. It's not very big, maybe an acre or two. I'll put a link down below so that you can have access to see exactly where this is. But it is a beautifully maintained garden, and there are signs that indicate what are all the plants, and they kind of have it separated into, some native species, some things that have come over, from other continents and thrive in the Wilmington area. And yeah, it's really just a really cool experience. And as I'm thinking about this, we're actually kind of balling 4, 5, and 6. So there were a few Venus flytraps and things in that garden. Now, were they in that garden or were they in tip 5? I don't remember. So let's talk about tip 5, and then we'll get a little bit more into the Venus flytraps. Tip 5 is going to be Airlie Gardens, and we'll get some footage of Airlie Gardens going on right now. Airlie Gardens is a 67-acre, basically open land. It has been landscaped, but it is not necessarily what I would call the same as a planned garden. It provided a very different experience of the wildflowers and things that you'll see in the Wilmington area. But one of the most majestic pieces was the Airlie oak, hundreds of years old. This oak tree was huge, absolutely massive, at least 6 feet around at the base. It was huge. Now, Airlie oak has a huge, well-landscaped garden kind of surrounding it. Across the 67 acres, there are different landscaped areas. There's a spring garden, and there's a Japanese kind of spring garden. There is it's just kind of divided into different sections. And we spent a few hours there at the park, and I think that's something that if we had packed a lunch, we probably would have stayed longer, simply because, you could just sit and enjoy the nature that exists there. It's right along a river, and so there's even a little dock over there that you can walk out onto. And we spent a lot of time, and we'll get this clip going right now, we spent a lot of time at the central pond by the pergola garden. Now, the central pond has a lot of turtles and other fish in it, and it was really cool to just kind of sit there, watch the turtles come up to us. Now, they don't want you to feed any of the fish or anything in the pond. Please be respectful of the signs that say no feeding of the turtles, no feeding of the fish. That allows the animals to thrive naturally, and so I always appreciate it when they allow that to happen in the natural habitat rather than human feeding. And then lastly, the Stanley Raider carnivorous plant garden was that kind of 6th tip that I wanted to throw in there. It's an unassuming little garden, and I think I might have a couple of pictures of it that we can get on screen here. So the Stanley Raider carnivorous plant garden, which I'll put a link to down below, houses a lot, and I mean a lot, of carnivorous plants. It's situated on about 3/4 of an acre, and pretty much that entire 3/4 of an acre is Venus flytraps and pitcher plants and these things called sundews, which I had never seen before. And they're all sitting there just trying to survive and thrive on bugs. There are a lot of activities in Wilmington that are not just water-based. We wanted to get on a fishing boat, but unfortunately Mother Nature didn't cooperate with us. So we found some other ways to enjoy the outdoors, even when the weather wasn't necessarily ideal for going on the water or to the beach. So if you're planning a trip to Wilmington, I absolutely recommend some of these off-water activities. Let us know what you thought about this video in the comments down below. Click subscribe so that you can see our next adventure video, and give us a thumbs up if you like this, thumb down if you didn't. My name's Todd, this is the Alcohol Free RV, and we will see you next time.